everyone, and for all of you who are just tuning in, it's John and Matthew from the Samurai Brothers Wrestling Podcast. This is going to be the Memorial Day weekend episode, so salute to the troops. Although we won't have any specific theme going on, we do want to recognize that our military service men and women have afforded us the opportunity for this, and make sure that we want to remember sacrifices that they have made. So thank you to all the veterans out there who are retired and active. So thank you very much.
Well, I guess we could, since it's Memorial Day, just kind of talk about the military contribution to our to wrestling.
Yeah, we're able to fit that in. So anyway, Matt, I was wanting to, for this week, was trying to look at some news tidbits, and I also looked at how they have, I did find an article from Internet Wrestle for currently have they do have a transfer portal for D1 wrestlers who are basically, this would be wrestlers who are transferring from either another D1 program, they're transferring from the current D1 program to another D1 program, or there were a couple of wrestlers that are also transferring from a JC to a D1 program, which, that's pretty big in and of itself, too. So, with that being said...
That is the route Brock Lesnar went.
Ah, yes, okay, yeah.
He started out in JC, and then he went to University of Minnesota, where his big behemoth, that big behemoth accomplished what set him up for WWE.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So, and then I know that we will have at times some 3C2A wrestlers that they will transfer outside of California to. I would imagine I'd have to look up who all has gone where. Haven't had time to do that, but that would be an interesting thing to see. How successful are 3C2A wrestlers across the board? Since I do participate in that a lot, but anyway, let's get right into the really big thing about today, Matthew. As you know, World Team Trials Challenge Tournament concluded last week, and so the Final X matchups have all been set up. And one thing we also found out, as USA Wrestling announced, was that there are going to be some true third-place matches. So basically, you're going to have up to 3 people representing the United States at, senior world level events. So I have to, obviously the person who wins Final X will represent at the, World Championships, other major events such as the Pan Ams also are a thing that you use in order to represent. So there is that. And I think the other things, you probably would have when there's invitationals and stuff, you would probably have, the other 2 competing as well. But I'm sure as the international season is going on, I'm sure that we'll probably be following those tournaments and seeing, who is competing what. So it gives us a better idea of how, the world circuit looks for the team and for how things go at these tournaments. So it's going to be a learning experience for you and me.
Yeah, because we always focused on mainly college wrestling.
Right. So
which we'll probably still be doing, but obviously trying to filter in some other wrestling as well.
So yeah, and I'll make sure that with that being said, and just make sure that you're on there too. But I see that that's not how this works, so I'm going to stop doing that. But you got to see yourself really big there for a bit.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, let us go to. So I thought we'd talk about the matchups of the World Team Trials, the Final X. So they do have all the matchups on USA Wrestling's website, but I guess first we should talk about the true third place matches. Now, what I saw here was that there are going to be. So let's take a look at what USA Wrestling have to say about the article related to that. So put that in here. All right, so they are going to have 2/3 national team wrestle-offs. So that's the final spot to get into the third position on the world team. And when that happens is usually going to be when you have a Final X world medalist. So and then the winner of the challenge tournament. So you have the winner of the challenge tournament. Those are the instances that you'll have. Plus, whoever finished as a runner-up at the challenge tournament, if they did not wrestle the third place medalist at the challenge tournament, that's where you're going to have a true third, because your two Final X wrestlers, they're going to be 1 and 2, but you still have to determine who the third place person is. So if the person who advanced to Final X out of the challenge tournament, they were the challenge tournament winner, if that person wrestled the third place wrestler, then you're not going to have if that person wrestled the third place wrestler, then you're not going to have a true third match. It's in the case where you have a Final X wrestler, then you have the winner of the challenge tournament, and the person who finished second at the challenge tournament didn't wrestle the third place match.
Or in the case of if the Final X finalist who's already there loses, and they
that could also be a possibility. Yes.
So it's all dependent on
no. That isn't the that's not how they're doing it. I've been looking at it. So well, okay. USA Wrestling has announced there will be 11 true third place national team wrestle-offs held to determine the number 3 athlete on USA Wrestling's national team. These wrestle-offs are held after the World Team Trials Challenge Tournament under specific circumstances. These matches are held in weight classes where a world medalist has previously qualified for Final X, and when the runner-up at the World Team Trials Challenge Tournament did not wrestle against the third place finisher, and I think that means the challenge tournament. So it's only going to be between the second place and the third place wrestler at the challenge tournament. Whoever's Final X, they're not going to wrestle, is what it looks like.
Oh, okay. So this is only between the Final X, the challenge tournament finalist and the
person who finished third.
Okay, so they're okay. Okay, so this has nothing to do with the Final X. So the 2 Final X guys have already got their
Yeah, they are 1 and 2. Just depends on who wins what.
Okay, that's as I recall, that's not how it used to be. Yeah, as I recall, that's not. Excuse me. How it used to be. As I recall, it was well, I don't think it used to be. I don't think the Final X existed before. What happened was
I don't
like that. That's a new thing. But what happened?
I have not heard of the Final X before too, but might have been possible they had been doing it before. But
It went under a different name.
possibly. And yeah, well, and I think, and probably where we had heard about, people qualifying to get into the semifinals, I have to wonder if that's where they had placed the medalists previously. So they had just one World Team Trial tournament, and then the medalists, the world medalists, would have gotten that semifinal seeding.
Yeah. So clearly the rules have changed. It's like clearly the rules have changed over the time that we've been wrestling. So
Right. So here's what we have. They're going to have 2 matches at Stillwater, which is coming up this Friday, and then they're going to be having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So they're going to have 9 matches at New York. So that's going to be a packed event at New York. So you've got.
and if you think about it, these are all one match. It's like these are all the culmination of tournaments, but these are all one. These are all like single match events.
Yeah, I have to imagine that these are only going to be single matches, because if they didn't do best 2 out of 3 for third place at the challenge tournament, why would they do best 2 out of 3 at this tournament for third place? It doesn't really make sense. So, with that being said,
what I meant was even the Final X guys are going to be obviously best 2 out of 3. But what I meant was these guys are all wrestling one opponent.
Right.
This is more like resembles a Flow Wrestling. In fact, it's probably being done through Flow Wrestling, but it more resembles those Flow Wrestling one-off matches that look more like like MMA fight cards or something like that.
Yeah. So 2 matches at Stillwater, and that's going to feature men's 57 freestyle. Jacob Camacho from the Wolfpack versus Zane Richards of Illinois RTC, or from Titan Mercury. Titan Mercury is pretty big, I have to say.
Do you know where they're physically based out of?
No, I don't remember. But I do know that I think they had some.
One guy's from Army.
Oh yeah.
Or no,
So I don't know if Titan Mercury had a training center in Orange County or in LA somewhere or not, but probably something to look. Definitely something to look up later.
I would imagine Southern California has to have at least one training center.
Yeah, I would have to
somewhere.
It's Titan Mercury Wrestling Club, so that's a bit different from the RTC.
Oh, it specifically says if it's an RTC. Okay, never mind.
Right. And then the other match at Stillwater is the men's 74 freestyle. Joey Lavalley from Lehigh Valley Wrestling Club, Titan Mercury versus David Carr from Cyclone RTC, which would be at Iowa. And he also does Titan Mercury.
Hey, have you noticed how Sunkissed Kids doesn't have RTC attached to it?
Yes, I've noticed.
So I guess that, it's possible.
Well, that means they're a wrestling club.
Yeah, it's possible. Another thing, it's Sunkissed Kids we know would qualify as an RTC. It's possible that some of these long established teams like the Sunkissed Kids just don't want to do the RTC because they've existed since before the RTC, so they're just like, yeah, we're fine. Because RTC, as we've established, you have to meet certain requirements to be an RTC, so they're probably just like, whatever.
Well, and that has to be the same with Titan Mercury. So, let's go into the New York True Thirds. You're going to have Hayden, first Greco-Roman 97. Hayden Maley versus Luke Sheridan. Hayden Maley from Beaver Dam, which I have to imagine is going to be the Oregon State RTC. Luke Sheridan from Army. And I would think WCAP has got to stand for Wrestling Club Athletic Program. But, I'm not sure enough. Then if you go into Women's Freestyle 55, Lauren Mason from Brunson UV RTC versus Alicia, I don't know if that's a typo or not, Hawk or Hawk, Sunkiss Kids. And Brunson UV, I gotta imagine that is Utah Valley. So then men's 61 freestyle, Daniel DeShazer from Gopher WCRTC versus Nico Megaludis from Pittsburgh WC. So the Gopher would be Minnesota. Women's freestyle 57, Cameron Gurin from Bearcat versus Amanda Martinez from Cardinal. Men's 79, Vincenzo Joseph from California RTC versus Carter Starachi, Nittany Lion. So you got two, these right here, that's two, excuse me, that's two Penn State wrestlers right there, if I remember correctly. That ought to be quite something. Women's freestyle, 62 kilos, Macy Kilty from Sunkiss versus Alexandra Lyles from Army. 86 men's freestyle, Mark Hall from Penn RTC versus Trent Hidley from Wolfpack. Women's freestyle, 65, Emma Bruntill, USO PTC versus Maya Latona from New York City RTC. And the last third place match is going to be men's freestyle, 92, Isaac Trumbull of Wolfpack versus Jonathan Aiello from Cavalier.
You know what USOPTC stands for, right?
I'm sorry?
You know what USOPTC stands for, right?
You'll have to refresh my...
United States Olympic Training Center.
Ah, okay.
So that might be the main center in Colorado Springs. Another thing I'm wondering is if part of the RTC was to try to decentralize, because they always used to send all the wrestlers to the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, and probably when they start getting when they've got the world team set, they probably still do send those guys there, just so that they can get acclimated to that because they want to have them train at altitude so that they're training and they're getting the performance down. But I think the whole point of the RTCs was to kind of decentralize things, and it's quite possible that maybe the RTC allows them to maybe still train outside of Colorado Springs if for some reason they can't afford to go.
Right.
I don't know if once you're on the world team, it's like you get scholarship or whatever like that. But I'd imagine if we're able to field a full team to like the world championships and to like the Pan Am championships and stuff like that, I would imagine that they're probably housing them there at the it's like once they're training, it's like, okay, pack your bags, you're going to Colorado Springs until X amount of time, and then maybe after that they're just like, okay, you can go back home, and then just train whatever.
So with that being said, Matt, well, let's go over the let us go over the previews for Final X Stillwater. So should be interesting, I think. So, and I think we'll just kind of do them in order. So let's start off first with Greco. And Matt, what I'll also do is, we'll kind of, because the good thing about the preview is that they are listing, for one thing, at least the major accomplishments of each wrestler. And then if there's a head-to-head, they're also showing those two. So let's take a look at what we have first for Greco. So the first match that they're doing for Greco, which is going to be the first Final X decider for the event, is 63 kilos Greco, Sammy Jones versus Jesse Fielk. And so right off the bat, it's a rematch from the Bill Farrell Memorial Tournament. And so it looks like Fielk was the one who came out on top of that. So it looks like Fielk was the one who was more getting into the 2016 Olympic run, and he was the one who did qualify for the Rio Olympics, but he did not qualify for the Tokyo Olympics. So,
this is NYAC versus Army. Army.
Right. Yeah. So, Field has made 4 junior teams. What they're saying, he placed bronze at the 2012 Junior World Championships. He did wrestle for the University of Wisconsin, and he qualified for the tournament in 2015. Now, in the case of Sammy Jones, he looks like he did not really do much at college. Instead, just says he was homeschooled through high school, but then just concentrating on wrestling. It looks like. So, what do they have?
Well, what do you know? Something that we did.
Yeah. So
for those of you who don't know, we spent some time, some point in our educational life, we were homeschooled.
So they faced each other twice, Matthew, and they split the series 1-1. Jesse Fielk did a tech fall over Sammy Jones 8-0 at the Dave Schultz Memorial Tournament, the third place match, but Sam Jones teched Jesse Fielk 9-0 at the Bill Farrell Tournament.
Are the rules different?
Are they different in what?
I remember tech in international style being 10,
so
or is that just freestyle?
Freestyle is 10 points. Greco is an 8-point event.
Okay. So you could do 2 giant 8-point laterals and win the match essentially.
And win the match, yeah. That's right. So that's going to be that one. So that's going to be where that one's going. So Matthew, I mean, kind of hard to tell. They're both, have been doing a lot. I can see. Fielk was the one who, has been closest in terms of, the Olympic team and stuff, but Sam Jones won the most recent matchup. So I don't know. Do you think it's a toss-up? You think right now it's a advantage for Sam Jones? What would you say?
And that's the interesting thing is their head-to-head was so many years apart. Like 2017 versus this year, that 5 years apart. You'd think that two guys you'd think, they're completely different wrestlers at this point. You'd think that two guys like that would have wrestled each other more, especially if they're performing in the Final X and if they've been around for that long. So you'd think so, but yeah, at this point it's really hard to tell. I mean, they might be different wrestlers and Sam Jones might have the advantage, but it's possible that it was just one of those things where Sam Jones got the advantage in their last meeting. So
he's had about a month and a half now, actually 2 months to make adjustments.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to see
The results.
yeah, especially yeah, it's as it's called in combat sports. This is the rubber match. We're gonna have to see who wins the rubber match.
All right.
You know, this
So,
kind of reminds me. So the one guy that I wrestled the most times in a single season was
mhm.
back in middle school. It was my 8th grade year. I still don't remember this kid's name, but we wrestled a total of 5 times that season.
Mm.
And I won all 5, but our first meeting was the closest because he was a more athletic guy, where I was the more experienced, and he racked up like a 6-point lead or something like that. And I'm just like, I can't lose to this kid. This is my 8th grade year. This is my year. My undefeated year, as it turns out. That was the closest match I ever had that year. So then after that, I just, it's like I just came back and just like, okay, wrestle, wrestle, wrestle. I might have pinned him, but yeah, that was.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you'd think that they would wrestle more, but I don't know. Circumstances are probably just such that they just didn't wrestle each other that often.
So let's go on to the next match, Matthew. And right away, they're getting to the big boys. So Colton Schultz versus Tanner Farmer. I mean, Schultz he's been on the world team. He has, it says here, he's got medals in the U20 and U17. Took second at the Olympic trials to Adam Kuhn, and as you may remember, Adam Kuhn was the wrestler from Michigan who handed Kyle Snyder his one loss in his I believe it was his junior year um, championship year when he was wrestling the Olympics and he was wrestling NCAA at the same time. So, I think just with how that goes, and then Schultz obviously finishing second to Gable Steveson at the NCAAs this year. Plus, he won the U.S. Open this year also. And then you've got Tanner Farmer, though, who he played football at the University of Nebraska, but he did use his final eligibility at Concordia in wrestling. So he did have a good showing at the Bill Farrell tournament this year.
Isn't that
So
that rule that
he won that.
if you do 4 years in one sport, you have one more year of eligibility in another sport? I think.
I don't recall though. He played football in Nebraska, but then he went to Concordia, which is an NAIA school.
I think so. As I recall, this is even in the NCAA, which, as we know, NCAA eligibility rules are very strict. But my understanding is you can do 4 years in one sport if you just use all 4 years. You don't redshirt or whatever. And if you do all 4 years, then you could do another year in another sport. So, like hypothetically speaking, someone could like wrestle for 4 years and then do a year of like football or something like that. But and then so but then he goes to NAIA, and we have to remember NAIA has more liberal rules. It's 4 years. You don't have to use it consecutively, as we know. I wrestled with it's like the freshman class I was a part of. It was, what, I just realized there's 3 or 4 people. Yeah, Mike Wakeham. He was an interesting guy. We've experienced some characters. Mike Wakeham was another character, but he was in his late 20s. He was a late 20s freshman.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he'd done well as a wrestler in high school, but then he went into the workforce and he's just like, well, I don't want to do this. And well, obviously it worked because he's a teacher now. I think he was doing construction at one point, but yeah, he was the heavyweight. He was our heavyweight for the longest time.
So I think it looks like they have wrestled twice, but Colton Schultz has won both times. Their first match was a lot closer. It was 4-3. And then the second match, which happened last year at the World Team Trials semis, it was Colton Schultz winning 5-0. So, I don't know. What do you say, Matt? Do you think...
I'd say Colton Schultz. It's probably going to be Colton Schultz. I mean, just because... that you could tell that first match was close. That second match wasn't as close. So I'd say it's probably gonna be Colton Schultz. He's just had more when it comes to wrestling. So I'm willing to say it's probably gonna be Colton Schultz. But just going on another tangent. An interesting thing. I don't know if you've heard of this, but there are rare instances of wrestlers at the college level who will do multiple sports.
Oh yeah.
There are it's extremely rare, because if you're like doing scholarship for one sport, why would you do it for another sport? But if you think about it, it might be smart, because if a guy's good enough to do scholarship for one sport and he does it for another sport, you could just have the sports team split his scholarship.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like realistically that's rare because of how long the seasons go. Like football goes into next year. By that time, wrestling season's halfway done. Wrestling goes into, it goes into February. I don't know if at that point the spring sports have already started competition. So it's just one of those things where it's just not that common because there's too much overlap between the teams, whereas in high school it's a little bit easier because you don't have as much overlap. Like there were some guys on the football team when I was wrestling at Villa Park who would come over and they'd maybe miss a tournament, but that's because, as you know, the high school seasons are a lot shorter. College sports seasons are a lot larger.
Right, because they end up going into the new year.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's your pick, Colton Schultz at the heavyweight for Greco.
Yep.
So number 3 match here, which is the 5th, Patrick Smith versus Benjamin Peak. So they've had 2 matches. Patrick Smith has won them both, but they've both been decisively close. Plus, they were at the Senior World Team Trials, which was technically a different event from the Olympic team trials. So they had 2 sets of team trials last year. So that meant that Patrick Smith won both of those, because that meant that he qualified for the team.
Well, that's the best 2 out of 3, right?
Yes, that would have been best 2 out of 3. So, not really much to say about what they've done on here. And so, I think this could be a toss-up, don't you think?
Yeah, if we're going to be realistic about it, the best 2 out of 3 at the World Team Trials, that's basically for all intents and purposes, that's the same match.
Yeah.
We could essentially consider it like a 3-round fight or something like that, with 2 rounds just taking it out. But yeah, it's been close. That was a close 2 out of 3 series. So.
And the first match ended up 3-3, so that meant that was based on criteria and the last point scored. So you've got world team member Patrick Smith, but then you also have Benjamin Peak, who has won looks like he's won the U.S. Open twice. So, but yeah, it'll be something to see.
Which is no joke. It's right. Like even though those are small brackets, those are tough small brackets.
So, Matt, in this case, what do you think? So
I'd
here's
say
another
the
type of prediction we
slight
can make. Will this
advantage.
go?
I'd say the
Go ahead.
slight advantage is to Patrick Smith, but with how close those matches were, Benjamin Peak could. That's one of those things where it's like if there was a betting pool, if it was like betting odds, it would not be that far apart. So an upset's really not. It would be an upset in that they faced each other and Patrick Smith has won both times. But realistically, an upset is not unreasonable because of how close those matches have been.
So let's put it this way then. So let's put around another prediction. Is this going to go 2 matches or 3 matches?
I would say two, unless Benjamin Peak is able to force a third, which could
All right.
happen.
So
It's just
all right.
it's one of those things where they're either going to be constantly competitively close, or the more dominant wrestler's going to slowly pull away. So I'm willing to say,
We'll have you on as Patrick Smith in 2.
yeah, that's what I'm willing to say.
All right. So we've got Ben Provisor from NYAC and Spencer Woods from Army. So they met quite a few times, it looks like, and their last match was the U.S. Open. Before that, though, they did wrestle at the Bill Farrell. So both times they met in the finals there, and then they did have an outing last year at the World Team Trials. And Ben Provisor leads the series. Technically, leads the series 4-0. So
This is one of those matches that was at the challenge tournament was semifinals, right?
Yes, this was no. This you got to remember, Matthew. There was only one weight class where there was a final X opponent that accepted for Greco. So all of these matchups that we've seen so far, all these wrestlers so far that we've seen, the semifinal winners advanced to this point. So that means that they did not wrestle at the challenge tournament. If that's what you're asking.
Right.
Right.
But this is the only matchup that we've reviewed so far where they met in the U.S. Open.
Yes, I think so far. Yes, this is the recent U.S. Open.
Yeah, this is, it's this again. This is one of those things where, the number of matches. This is something I would expect for the number of matches, because unless the other weight classes are just so competitive that it's like
they've never met.
Yeah, they've just never met to, or had very few interactions with each other. Like that 5 point, that 5 year gap, to me, that's just like, how did they never wrestle each other up until that? It's like in between that.
Right.
These must be really competitive weight classes. If you've got two meetings, basically one meeting with the team trials, stuff like that. So that's just how it that's the only thing I could possibly think of.
So Provisor, he's a 2-time Olympian, and what does Woods have going for him? He was a U23 World Team member. He was the U.S. Open champion from last year. So he's trying to get on to his first senior world team. So, obviously, Spencer Woods has been trying to challenge Ben Provisor on a number of occasions, as we're seeing here right now. But in this case, Matthew, how many, who and how many rounds?
Let's see. 7-1, 4-2, 2-1, 5-3.
All for Ben Provisor so far. He has a 4-0 advantage. and they've all been reasonably close. So
Yeah,
we'll have to
that
give them
the
that.
furthest away was their first match at the team trials last year.
Right.
This is another one of those occasions where I'm gonna say it, just because of how close all those meetings are. I'm gonna say it's probably gonna be Provisor, but Woods could have a good day.
So 2 or 3 matches.
Just because of how their last one went, I'd say 2, but it could easily go 3.
All right. So last Greco match, Max Nori and Brady Kuntz. So they have. Look
Whoo,
at this.
Nelly.
What?
Whoo, Nelly.
So they've got quite a history. Let me make sure that. Okay. So yeah, they have quite a history here. So if you're looking at all of them, it looks like they've gone against each other 6 times, because you do have 2 Final X. So look at this at the bottom, Matthew. So Final X from 2019. So Final X has been going on for a while. We just haven't paid attention to it. So that's on
It
us.
could
But
still
hey,
be it could
again,
still be a relatively recent thing though. It could have started like in 2018 for all we know.
So, but looking at this, Nori leads the series 6-0. However, Kuntz has kept it relatively close since that Final X meeting, and the matches have been decided by no more than 3 points in recent years. So you could have, Kuntz. Hey, maybe he might be able to do something this year. Their last meeting was at the Senior World Team Trials last year, which means that they did not meet at Bill Farrell this year. They did not meet at the U.S. Open. So
Is that what that
could
senior nationals is supposed to be?
I'm sorry?
Is that what that senior nationals is in April of last year supposed to be?
That is a good question. Yeah, because I think there is a senior nationals.
But did that happen this year? I just I feel like we've been following since February. We didn't see anything related to that.
Yeah, I don't recall.
It's
we
we saw we saw the Bill Farrell, the U.S. Open. I don't think it was.
No, I didn't see it.
I don't think it was listed. Like, I know there used to be a separate national tournament separate from the U.S. Open, and it looks like that happened last year, but we haven't seen that this year.
It could be happening later this year too. I'd have to look at the calendar.
Well, which is weird because last year took place in April. That was before the Olympics.
Yeah, but I think there was another one I saw. It happened in October. There was a previous year senior nationals that took place in October. So, yeah, hard to say.
We'll just have to see how things go, because again we're reconnecting into the sport. So,
I mean, Nori has the more experience. Obviously, he's been a world team member. It says up here he's a 3-time Pan Am gold medalist. He's beaten Kuntz all 6 times that they have wrestled. But again, Kuntz has stayed close. He stayed close, but
with the exception of that
second,
with the exception of that second Final X in 2019.
Yeah. So has Kuntz done enough, Matthew, to possibly pull off the upset? So your prediction: how many rounds do you think we're going?
I'm gonna go with the previous 2. I think it's gonna be in 2 rounds, but it could go a third, because Kuntz might get lucky.
So prediction? Is Nori going to come out on top?
Yeah.
All right.
All
right.
It's like this and the last two, because of how close they've been. This could be either one of those guys or lucky day.
Mm-hmm.
But it also might not necessarily. So.
All right. So we're going to get into the women. So Final X Stillwater for the women's championships. Now, this first one, Matthew, is featuring the two women who got to the finals at the challenge tournament because Adeline Gray declined her Final X spot. So, Diamond Guilford of USOP and Yelena Makoyed from Cardinal Wrestling Club. So, what it says here is Diamond Guilford is a two-time NAIA champion from the University of the Cumberlands. And Yelena Makoyed is a two-time NCWWC champion. So, two women with, championship experience at the women's collegiate level. But from what it might see, so Makoyed did place third at the World Team Trials last year, and Guilford was fourth at the Olympic Team Trials, and she was fourth at the World Team Trials. So from what it looks like, they did wrestle at the World Team Trials last year. And the series currently is split 2-2. And Guilford has won the first and the last meeting. Makoyed has won the second and third meetings. And interestingly enough, if you see here, Matthew, Makoyed beat Guilford 10-8 both times. So that's interesting. But Guilford pinned Makoyed at the U.S. Open semifinals in April. So with that being said, this is definitely one. So this is going to be their first Final X. So what do you think, Matthew? I mean, it's two women that are very, very evenly matched, it seems. But what say you? What do we have here? Diamond Guilford or Yelena Makoyed?
This could go either way. I'm gonna say it could go either way. This is one of those times where they're both evenly matched. They're split down the middle, and it's all recent. It's not like that one match where they're one guy won 5 years apart, the other one recently. This is within the last 2 years, completely evenly. Within the last year.
Within the last year. Yeah.
Within the last 13 months, split evenly. I'm saying I'm not making a prediction one way or the other. I'm gonna say it could go either way, because you and I both know a pin is one of those things where a pin is one of those things where anything could have happened. It's just you catch someone in the right position, you can pin them
in the right position to pin them.
Yeah, I put a state placer on his back once.
Right.
In one of those off-season, Garrett Drucker, I put him on his back once in one of those off-season USA Wrestling tournaments.
I remember Garrett Drucker.
So it could go either way.
All right. So then the next one. So you're ruling toss up for this one. It's very too tough to tell. So Matt, now let's go into this is where you'll have to score your points. 2 matches or 3 matches?
I'm gonna say it's gonna go the whole 3.
All 3. All right. That's a good.
This is one of those situations where it's so close it could go either way. I could be wrong. It could go it could go 2 for one or the other, but I'm just not willing to. This is one of those situations where it's too close. I can't make a pick one way or the other.
All right, so 59 kilos. You got Lexi Basham of Spartan Mat Club versus Abigail Nettie Army. So they actually, from what it's looking like, they have never met. So we're gonna have to, you know, and again, this is another match where neither has been on a. They've never. So this is gonna be their first time representing for the senior team. So what do we have though? Nettie was third at the Olympic trials last year. She also won the U.S. Open last year. Also, she also has two WCWA national titles for Campbellsville and Emmanuel, and then she also currently trains for the U.S. Army WCAP. So Basham, she placed third at the 2020 and 2022 U.S. Open, and she is a NAIA national champion for Texas Wesleyan, and she beat Menlo's Nania Estrella in the finals.
It's so hard to hear Texas having wrestling teams nowadays.
Yeah, I think that's the only one right now, unless another program started up recently.
Don't
But I
don't
know
they
that
don't they have a men's don't they have a men's program too?
Yeah, originally the men's program started up, and
But
sounds like they added.
yeah, but either way, it's just so weird because when you think of Texas, you don't think of Texas as a wrestling school. I think Brandon Slay was one of the most prominent Texas
Right.
wrestlers. He had
Well,
his own
Matthew,
wrestling shoes at one point.
Right. Well, you think this is probably another toss-up match, don't you think? Because they've never
I'm gonna
met
go.
before.
I'm gonna go with the same thing. I'm gonna say it's gonna go all three matches. I could be mistaken. I mean, they could meet, and one of them's just gonna be the complete dominant person. But
I'll go ahead and throw my hat in the ring here and say that I think it's going to go two. But so I think it's whoever is going to win it is going to win it in two. That would be my prediction.
well, and it's hard to tell with two people who haven't faced each other before.
Right.
So
now we've got, and I think this is one where you've got Jenna Burkett was the one who accepted her spot. So she is taking on the challenger, Jakara Winchester. So they have met 4 times. And and again, this is kind of like that first Greco match that we covered. The first time they met was in 2013 at the World Team Trials Consolation Semifinals. And Burkett decision, Winchester 10-2. And so then they met at the World Team Trials last year, and it actually went 3 matches. Burkett, won the first match on a 6-6 criteria. Then Winchester won 9-8. Burkett came back in the third match and won 4-3. So, and both these women, they've really hustled. Winchester world title at 55 kilos 2019. She represented the U.S. at the Tokyo Olympics, and she did try out for the world team backup at 55. She met Burkett in the championship series. So at the U.S. Olympic team trials, Burkett took Helen Maroulis to 3 matches, but she came up short on that. Burkett is on 4 U.S. senior world teams, so she's got the experience, but nothing, So she's wrestled, at world championships, things like that, but no medals. So, again, you kind of have to take out. I think if you're looking at the duration between their first and their second series meeting, you kind of have to discount how that's gone so far. You can't really take into consideration a match that happened 8 years prior, I think. So this is going to be really close. I think both women are going to go out tooth and nail for this one. Would you say though that this is going to be a toss-up? Again, Winchester's got world medal experience. Burkett doesn't, but Burkett, is able to really fight it out with the best of the best.
Yeah, I would have to say that this is gonna be a toss up. They've both been on the world stage. They're both extremely close in competition. Yeah, Winchester has clearly improved since their first meeting, and all three of their matches at the World Team Trials last year were close. So again, I'm gonna agree. It's gonna be a toss up. It's probably gonna go three matches. You can't. I don't
I
know.
think same here. I think it's safe to say we're going to see 3 matches. I do have to give the edge to Burkett though, just seeing on how she's been doing. But I would not be surprised, yeah, if it was Winchester. So we'll see. That'll be something. So let's go to bout 13. Forrest Molinari, who accepted the final X. So she does have a the advantage here. She has a world medal. She took bronze at the 2021 championships last year versus Mallory Velty from Beaver Dam. So she's made the world team 3 times. And here's the thing: she's gotten to the medal match every single time, and but she so far has just one. Now, again, Mallory also has a bronze medal. She got that in 2018. So, hard to say how this goes. They have met 3 times, and Molinari, and this was not World Team Trial related. So they do have a 3-match. Molinari has won the last 2. So she leads the series 2-1. And, somewhat, I wouldn't say comfortably, but, Velty beat her the first time in 2017, 6-2. Molinari came back later in 2017, won that match 4-2. And then this year, they both met at the Yasar Dogu, and Molinari beat Velty 7-4. So, again, 5-year gap between their last match, but Molinari has the more recent success. What's your say on this, man? Are we going to be Molinari or Velty?
This is one of those situations where I give the slight edge to Molinari, but it's been close. I'm gonna say it's gonna go 2, but this is another one of those situations where it could be Velty has won before, so it could be that she might be able to get her lucky day, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I'll probably have to tip my hat to Molinari in 2 in that case. So then we go on to our Olympic champion, Tamira Mensah-Stock versus Sienna Ramirez. So, Mensah-Stock, only the second women wrestler to win the Olympic gold after your teammate Helen Maroulis. But she has not wrestled since Oslo, which was the World Championship. But she did finish with a bronze medal. She got really lucky because it says that she lost her first bout. So that means that the person who beat her, excuse me, did advance to the finals. So she got it good there. Now, with that being said, Sienna Ramirez. So what has she done? 2021 NAI national champion from Southern Oregon, and she placed 3rd at the NAIAs this year, and she's had All-American placement at the 2019 WCWA Nationals. So, but she's added on to that. She did win the U.S. Open, and then she won, obviously, the World Team Trials Challenge Tournament. So, the with that being said, though, you know, Sienna has been competing a lot recently. She's been consistently on the mat. Men's stock, obviously Olympic champion, bronze medalist at the World Championships last year, but hasn't wrestled since then. So, this article is mentioning a bit of mat rust, Matthew. Could that be a factor, do you think, if, not having wrestled in the last 6 to 7 months?
Matt Rust is one of those things where it's either it doesn't affect everyone equally. Some people it doesn't affect at all. Others it might be the deciding factor. I'm willing to give Menza Stock the benefit of the doubt in saying that she's got. I'm willing to say she's got the advantage and she could probably pull it off here. Most likely comfortably, but I could be wrong. But it's that's just one of those things where if she's in shape, I mean she didn't wrestle she didn't wrestle since the last World Championships. But if she's out there and she's in shape and stuff like that, then she'll I think she'll get it.
All right, we've got you for Men's stock, 2 or 3 rounds.
2.
All right.
I could be wrong. Ring rust, like I said, ring rust affects everyone differently. So it may not affect her at all. It may cost her the spot, but we'll just have to wait and see.
All right, so let's move on to men's freestyle, and then we'll try to finish up for the day. But let me see here. So men's 70 kilo freestyle. First match of the day, 70 kilos. You got Zane Rutherford and Jordan Oliver. And obviously, these are 2 guys from NCAA fame. You've got Jordan Oliver, who did wrestle for Oklahoma State, 2-time champion. Zane Rutherford, 3-time NCAA champion from Penn State. So Oliver leads he's got a 1-match advantage over Zane Rutherford, 3-2. But the last time they wrestled was at the World Team Trials last year. So, and Oliver won that decision 2-2. And Rutherford had won the World Team Trials Challenge finals 2 years prior. So, going over this, so their history has spanned 5 years, but they've, it's not like there's been a 5-year gap. It's every other year they've ended up wrestling each other. So I don't know, Matthew. What do you think? Because that's kind of hard to tell. But the only time Rutherford was won was at the challenge tournament. So what do you think going into this? Can both wrestlers hope to achieve? Or what do you think that the game plan is?
Well, let's see. Remind me, what's the results between their meetings?
Okay, so Oliver won their first match 5-3 at the U.S. Open. Then Oliver won their second match 13-11 at AWL 1. And then at the World Team Trials in 2019, Rutherford won both matches 7-6. And then at the World Team Trials quarterfinals, Oliver defeated Rutherford 2-2 on criteria.
Well, let's see. Oliver has the advantage, but they've all been close, and Rutherford did win in 2019, and they've been facing each other consistently over the years. I'm willing to. This is another one of those situations where I'm willing to give Oliver the slight edge, but Rutherford could win. And I'm willing to say it's going to go 3 rounds.
So I'll probably, um, if they're meeting directly in this best 2 out of 3, I might have to tip my hat to Rutherford in regards to this. He seems to perform right there when it's that best 2 out of 3. So yeah, you're right. We might be going three bouts on this. I would not be surprised if it did go 3 bouts. So then we have Gilman from Nittany Lion versus Vitali Arujau, Spartan Combat. So Gilman, Olympic bronze medalist, and then a world title last year. And if you remember, Matthew, Gilman, last time we saw, and he is ranked #1 in UWW. So as far as facing off, Gilman has won all 3 of their matches. And the first time they met was, actually, all their matches were from last year. Gilman decisioned Arujau 6-2. And then at the Olympic team trials, he pinned Gilman in the first match, and then he defeated Arujau 2-2 on criteria. So, in your mind, Gilman's leading 3-0, and he's pinned Arujau once. I'm almost thinking if that second bout was just kind of Gilman being careful, which is maybe why that match was 2-2. I don't know. What do you think about how this could go?
Yeah, I would have to agree that it seems like he's been pretty dominant throughout this. I mean, the first and third matches were close, but he pinned him. I'm willing to give it to the world champion. 2 matches.
2 matches for Gilman.
Two matches for Gilman.
Jump on that with you then. Yeah, this is Arujau's got a big hill to climb if he's wanting to take him on. So it's have to see what happens. Although, yeah, he beat his World Team Trials Challenge Finals opponent Jacob Camacho with 2 falls, but now defeating your one opponent with 2 falls is one thing, but now you're taking on the Olympic and world medalist, and ranked #1 in the world. So we'll see. All right. So Dayton Fix versus Seth Gross. Now Gross was the one who accepted the spot. Dayton Fix, as you know, has had a rivalry with RBY from Penn State. Just has not been able to beat him, and Fix will probably have to wrestle RBY again next year now that RBY has said he's coming back. But looking at, so here's what we have so far. Fix did wrestle Gross, and he teched him last year because they met in the World Team Trials. So I'm kind of interested to see, what happened. What happened at that Dayton Fix didn't make the world team last year, unless he was concentrating on trying to do what he could at Oklahoma State for the NCAA tournament. Now, so with that being said, if I'm trying to look at what we have here, so Gross at the World Team Trials. Oh, wait a second. Do I have this right? I might not have this right. I'm sorry. Fix was the one who had the who has the advantage. So my mistake to all our viewers. Fix was the one who accepted the final X spot. So my bad. Okay, so Matthew, this will be something, right? We got Dayton Fix, world silver medalist, NCAA All-American, and he's beaten Gross 11-0 at the result at the World Team Trials last year. What say you on, can Gross try to do something for this tournament or this matchup? Does Gross have a chance against Dayton? And apparently in this last paragraph, it's very hard to score on fix and freestyle.
Yeah, I just don't know. I mean, as we know, folk style and freestyle are just very different. So
Very different. Yep.
the only thing in common is the takedowns.
So fix.
I'm willing to say fix, yeah.
2 or 3?
I would say 2.
All right, I'm right on there with you. So we'll see. Dayton Fix versus Seth Gross.
Because there's only the one, and he tech faulted him. That if there's
right.
Like we said, a pin is like we said, a pin isn't always necessarily the sign of dominance. I mean, it is when someone is like a hugely dominant person, but when a match is close, that just can mean that something happened there. But like a tech fall is typically not a fluke.
Right.
So I'm willing to say that Fix is gonna come out on top here.
All right, so let's look at this one. 92 kilos. Jaden Cox versus Nathan Jackson. So, Matt, as you remember last week when we were trying to look at all the results, and Nathan Jackson seemed to come out of nowhere. I don't even know, how he had gotten in there, but hey, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, he was like one of 2 people who came out of nowhere. It's like, where did this guy come from?
Right.
We still need. It's like it would be nice to know how he got in. It's like how he even qualified.
Right, for the challenge term, because we didn't see
this
the US Open.
This might actually tell us how.
That is true. So let's see what he did here. Well, obviously you got Jaden Cox, and he got the bronze medal at the Rio Olympics, and then he's gone all over the place because he won after that, bronze at 2017 World Championships, gold in the 2018 and 2019 World Championships, and then bronze again at 2021. So, just
and he didn't win at the Olympics.
Yeah. So Nathan Jackson, All-American for Indiana University, and he's currently training at the New Jersey RTC. And he's wrestled at, a few events here and there. And, again, very outscored his opponents 40-0.
Could that be it? The All-American status?
Yeah, I mean,
that's got to be it. And they just flubbed and didn't list it.
Yeah, I think U.S. Open just didn't, or USA Wrestling probably just didn't list him in that qualified thing. So they did wrestle once last year in January, 6-1 for Cox. I have to say though, Matthew,
in one of those Flow Wrestling
right, in a
events.
Flow Wrestling event, I would still say though, I mean, Cox, just knowing how he wrestles and stuff, seeing him how he moves, dominant. He's got championship experience, 2 gold medals at the Worlds and the bronze. I mean, Jackson, But Jackson, though, pretty dominant. Did not get scored on at the challenge tournament. This could definitely be a barn burner, don't you think?
Uh, it has the potential to be. I'm willing to say. Well, and let's look at something else. The fact that he was on one of those flow wrestling events, those are invite only. Those are
Mm-hmm.
they're matchmake. They're for all intents and purposes, you could consider them a combat sport event. They are matchmaker set.
Event.
Yeah, they're that kind of an event. It's like that. You have to agree to wrestle the guy. You have to, it's. I think you might have to fill out contracts and stuff like that. So it's
Right.
he's clearly no joke. If
Mm-hmm.
he was invited to an event and he wrestled Cox there. I'm still gonna give it to Cox, but we could for the most
Yeah.
part consider Nathan Jackson a we could consider him a
Something to
rising.
watch in the
We
future.
could consider him a rising star. Like he could be an heir apparent.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I'm gonna have to say the same thing. Jaden Cox. I'm probably gonna say in 2 matches. Your prediction?
Same here.
2 matches. Okay. And so our last review or preview actually.
Snyder.
Snyder, Colin Moore. Math. I mean, anything to really add onto this?
I mean, Snyder's got a proven track record. Even if he lost to who's the guy?
Colin Moore.
No, not Colin Moore. I'm talking about internationally.
Oh, gosh. I think what was it? Abdurrahman or the Russian.
Yeah, the Russian, who,
Yeah.
depending on how much longer this war goes, may not be there.
And Snyder is probably going to keep going. Yeah, and this right here, he's 7 of 7 in terms of competing in a tournament and getting a medal. So, no disrespect to Colin Moore.
He's consistent.
Yes, Snyder's consistent. So just right off of that, I'm gonna say Kyle Snyder in 2. And what say you, Matthew?
Yeah, Snyder in 2.
So they did wrestle twice, but it was at the Olympic team trials. 10-0-5-1 for Snyder. So
Let's see. Final X Stillwater will be held alongside the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Honors Weekend, which is happening. So it'll be interesting to see who gets inducted.
yep. All right. So that concludes that. So we'll just be seeing how things are going related to that. And so what else am I having?
Did you say that something
right
happened?
Okay, so,
Did you say that something happened with Japanese wrestling?
sorry, say again?
Did you say something happened in Japanese wrestling?
Japanese wrestling. No, I don't. There's not. I know that. I think they'll be having their world team trials soon. And there was another thing I saw that was interesting was Canada also is having their world team trials because one of the wrestlers from North Carolina Tar Heels is wrestling at the Canadian world team trials.
You know, I've actually heard of Canadian, because even though Canada does freestyle, sometimes they'll do good enough to where someone from, or it might just be citizenship.
It could be. It could be like a dual citizenship thing.
Yeah, where they're, you know,
Dual
they,
citizenship or citizenships, the wrestling down here, and then obviously we have the vice versa. the one that sticks out in mind is when you've got a lot of female wrestlers. They go to Simon Fraser University in Canada and they wrestle there. So that's stuff to look at. So anyway,
Yeah, but that's just for college wrestling. That doesn't really get them any kind of like tryout for
right,
the
right.
Canadian trials or anything like that. Now I'm completely unfamiliar. How does the Japanese World Team Trials work?
So and I think their thing might be similar, but I think it's kind of changed over the years. So I wanna do some more research before I find out. It used to be that if you won the Emperor's Cup, which is their, it's not necessarily a U.S. Open. It's more like an invitational based on the other results that you've done. And then you'd have a tournament, and then whoever would win that would win the um, challenge the. But I think what would happen is that I remember seeing that you'd have the wrestler who won the Emperor's Cup would also go out and wrestle in the Meiji Cup, and if they won both tournaments, they were automatically qualified. But if you had one wrestler win the Emperor's Cup and then another wrestler win the Meiji Cup, then you would have a the wrestle off. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
So
don't know how they're doing it recently. So like, let's say for example, if the one wrestler just didn't compete in the Meiji Cup, then yeah, you're gonna have a playoff.
I know it. Obviously, it varies from nation to nation. I know some nations don't even have a world team trial; they just have a national championship, and the national champion is the and then some nations. I don't even know if they even have national tournaments. They'll just pick
Right.
the wrestler. But then again, if you're talking about like say a good wrestler, like the one guy who wrestled for Barbados in the what's it called,
Mm-hmm.
the Pan Ams. If he's their only
Mm-hmm.
wrestler, why else? Are it's like why are they even gonna have another? Like he might be literally the only wrestler in the nation. Because
Mm-hmm.
remember, Barbados is an island. It's one of those Caribbean islands, so they're just like, yeah, well, yeah, we will. You're our guy.
All right, so Matthew, just going to go over a few news tidbits I've seen so far, and then we'll wrap up for today. So, first one I just wanted to kind of cover was
We
the
had a
transfer.
shorter episode today.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that people, have time to do stuff for the day. So, just the look at the transfer portal, what we have. So, I'll screen share that really quick so that you can see. And so this is what we have. This, and again, this is strictly D1. So this is coming off of Intermat. They've actually listed who all is transferring to D1 universities, and they could either be from D1 or they might be from NJCAA school, like I mentioned earlier. And those two wrestlers are, you've got, where is, let's see here, uh, Daron Pulliam, and yeah, he's transferring from Indian Hills College, and he's going to SIU Edwardsville. And then you've got,
What level is Indian Hills?
it's an NJCAA.
Okay.
And then the other junior college transfer is Jose Valdez from North Iowa Area Community College. He's going to Northern Illinois. Overall, though, so what Intermat is listing is you've got 2021 All-American Taylor Lamont is transferring from Wisconsin to Utah Valley. So he's making a jump from Big 10 to Big 12. And then Penn State is losing a wrestler, Brandon Meredith, but he was not their what do you call that? He was not their varsity. Yeah, he was not their starting wrestler at 25 pounds. So he is transferring from Penn State to South Dakota State. So that is one. And it looks like, though, I think there was another, yes. You also have a Michael Beard earlier in the year. Looks like he is transferring to Lehigh.
Was he a starter?
I know he was not the starter.
Oh, it's just one of those things where it's like, you went to Penn State, but then you kind of realize, oh, there's a bunch of guys ahead of me. I may never start here.
And I'm very sure this happens often. I mean, you looked at what happened with, while you were at Missouri Baptist. People come in and out all the time. It looks like the teams most, so far when I'm looking at this listing, there are 3 teams that are gaining 3 wrestlers each. You got Illinois, Oklahoma, and Pittsburgh. So you got some other schools. It looks like Purdue is getting someone.
Our grandfather's alma mater.
Yeah. They're gaining one and they're losing one because this Garrett Nugent House. Not sure how to spell it. Nugent House, I think, going from Purdue to Oklahoma, but then they're gaining Jake Knoll from NC State. And again, I can't tell that, whether or not these were all varsity wrestlers.
If you're coming from a higher level D1 to a lower level D1, you're probably starting.
Right.
That's probably the sole opportunity. That's probably the sole reason why these guys are transferring is because they want the chance to start. That's just, pure and simple.
Yeah,
we'll throw one example out there, like the Fresno State's first year back before they got cut again for a variety of reasons. They had a guy who was like from Wyoming or something like that transferring back as a senior. I don't know if the guy would have. I don't know if the guy would have been able to transfer or would have been able to start or not, but he was definitely starting at Fresno State.
Well, heck, there was a wrestler from Oklahoma, I think, that transferred to Fresno. And I know that I think a few of those guys, and I think one of the Neville brothers transferred to Fresno State.
Well, the majority of the guys who had transferred from Fresno State, they were all from the Valley. As we know, the best
into Fresno State.
Right. As we know, the majority of wrestlers, the majority of the good wrestlers, obviously there's exceptions here and there, but the majority of the good wrestlers in California come from the Central Valley. So these guys want to support their school. It's pure and simple.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what
it was very sad that it was unfortunately in vain because the program, like I said, the program got cut for a variety of reasons, but
yeah. That was really unfortunate. So that's where that's at. We're probably looking. Let me see here. If I'm looking at how many wrestlers that there are, you're probably looking at 15, 20, 25, 30. So 35 so far in the transfer portal for D1. And again, variety of reasons, obviously, but your explanation makes the most sense, and that probably is what happened. That is what happens. And the guys want to when they go to a higher level and then they go to another school, it's going to be because they just cannot get onto that varsity spot.
Well, yeah, like one example is that very, very, very briefly, I thought my freshman year about leaving MOBAP, and the primary reason was because I was getting homesick. But fortunately, winter break happened. I went back home, and I was able to get that out of my system. But then I hear Cal Baptist is starting their program, so my thought process then became, well, do I go back and it's like, first of all, with the coach, because it wasn't Zaleski. The first coach was not Zaleski. But my thought was, well, do I go back and help my program, because I'm an AI at the time. Cal Baptist was an AI, and it's like I could have the opportunity to wrestle back there. But ultimately, I think ultimately my decision was, what, I started here, or let's just end here, which I think was in the long term the right decision. So,
yeah.
I mean, I was, it's like I spent time there. I made friends there, and I've earned the respect of people, including Coach Brian Jackson. So
yeah, sometimes you just you bear it out and you do stuff, and you know what?
And it's some guys. It's some for obviously when it comes to transfers, there's also a variety of reasons. But some guys just get burnt out and then they just leave. Like a lot of guys that I knew, they just got burnt out and left.
Yep. All right. Let's finish up on a couple of more things here. So it looks like, what do we have also? So Pat Glory, as you know, he made the finals from Princeton for at the NCAA tournament. He ended up wrestling Suriano from Michigan. He ended up finishing second. Looks like he is not going to be trying to compete right away. It looks like he's going to be doing some internship on Wall Street. But I have to imagine if you're coming from Princeton, you'll probably focusing a bit on career. I mean, you don't just go to an Ivy League school and then just move on to being international competition. Do you think?
Yeah, if you're going to an Ivy League school or someplace like Stanford, which is essentially Ivy League level, you're looking to get into business. You're looking for a career. Unless you were like a national champion at one of those schools, then you're looking to get into a career. Like Kyle Snyder was a no-brainer. He was a four-time NCAA champion. So unless he had something solidly lined up. Why'd you put 3?
You said Kyle Snyder was a 4-time NCAA champion, but he's 3 times.
Dake. Sorry, Dake. Kyle Dake was a 4-time NCAA champion. So unless he had something solid lined up, that's where he was going. He's.
Glory does say that he wants to, try to, he'll probably try to compete if he can, but so he'll do his internship first, and he says he is going to do training, so to stay in shape, obviously. So be interesting to see if he comes in, following the summer, and he'll obviously have to deal with people like, Gilman, and some other people. We'll see, how he does. So best of luck to him. By the way, Matthew. So something else, because Dad and I were talking, and the Ivy League had canceled their 2021 season. So even though the rest of the NCAA was having their season, the Ivy League did not because of the whole COVID complications and stuff. So, remember how I was talking about Yanni Diakomalis possibly becoming a 5-time national champion, for Cornell? Well, that's not going to happen because he actually lost that year. But he still has his COVID year, which he is obviously going to be using. So, but he still has the chance to join that short list of wrestlers that are on the 4-time, national champions list. So
well, if you look at even Pat Smith, I don't think his were consecutive because I'm not.
Yes.
I can't remember why, but Okie State went into some kind of probation. So, fortunately, he had saved his red shirt. Unlike Cale, who actually redshirted his freshman year, he saved his red shirt. So in that ineligible year, he's like, well, I'm not gonna wrestle if I can't go to the fun. So he redshirted, and
Right.
then he
Right.
went, like, I think it was his freshman year. Then the probation happened, so he redshirted his sophomore year. Then he came back and won the next 4 years.
So I think, let me see here. When did he? I go to his wiki and it doesn't even say what year he.
Years.
Doesn't even say what years he won, but whatever. Anyway, it was. I don't know. Yeah, it was. It was either. I think it was his junior year. I know he either won one and then he won 3, or he won 3 and then won 1.
Speaking of Okie State, I still think it's like I still think it's funny how your coach Vince Silva, who's older than John Smith, looks better than John Smith right now. It's like, what could have happened to John Smith that he just aged so badly? I don't think he has any health issues.
Sometimes people age. And,
Whereas, Vince Silva, it's like I'm not even sure John Smith wrestles anymore. It's like Vince Silva, it's like he still doesn't he still wrestle with his guys?
Smith gets on the mat. I've seen highlights of him getting on the mat.
Okay.
He gets on the mat. But, you have to kind of consider, it's like, I'm very sure being a coach at a D1 program can be a pretty stressful job. That goes without saying.
Yeah, that's
you got to deal with people like, when you got to deal, when you're the coach at Oklahoma State, the most successful program, and then you're dealing with people like Brands, Sanderson, that really beat up on your guys.
Jay Robinson when he was still wrestling or when he was still coaching.
Oh well, and let me tell you something that Silva had told me about. Because he was watching the NCAA tournament, right? And there was a match. There was a really close match that Oklahoma State was having, and they ended up losing the match. And what happened was, I think it was like a 1-1 match, so I'm going to third period. Or no. I think the Oklahoma State wrestler was losing. And he had choice in the third period, and he picked neutral. And the way Coach Silva was describing his reaction to that, he says, I thought I was going to have a heart attack or something. Because, from the era he came from at Oklahoma State, you always pick bottom because you get out. You get out and you get that point and you work on your offensive.
Well, that's still the same mentality that, I was taught to wrestle with, both in high school and in college. So
yeah, the thing is, and now we're gonna get a little technical. The thing is, if you can't get out, how else are you supposed to score in terms of, from a neutral position,
especially in college when that riding point comes into play.
Right, especially on the riding point. So if if you can't get out, that means that you don't have, then you can't work on the takedowns. So that's why, yeah, if I'm in a match, I'm always picking down because whether I'm getting out or not is another thing. But and so he listened to an interview with John Smith, on how they did at the tournament, and John Smith's comments were, well, yeah, we just got to get out from bottom more, which means that they're not working on it as much as they should be. And so that's probably one of those things is how when you look at how Oklahoma State has been, I think that they have come within a top 2, top 3 finish, for a few years, but it's far and few between from what they've had, back from the time when the NCAA championships started up until about the early 2000s, when he had that 4-peat run. So, hoping John Smith the best, maybe he might have to consider, hey, is it time to, I hate to be the one that say, hey, is it time to hand the reins over to a younger person? Hard to say.
Well, and you think about the number of guys. I think he has a few of his proteges on staff. So
yeah, so he might be, he might be getting ready. Who knows?
Well, it's kind of like well, maybe he could win a few more championships, but let's face it, it's like John Smith was an exceptional wrestler and he's a good coach. He won 5 national championships, but he's no Cael Sanderson. And I know that the last time that I know that the last
no Tom Brands either.
Yeah, and he's so it's like I know that I made the comparisons with Cael and Brands, but it's another one of those things where it's like, and I really hate to do this, because I was a John Smith fan when they went on that 4-peat. I was like thinking, it's like, but the fact of the matter is that he was able to win under the right set of circumstances. It's like he didn't have Brands to compete with. He was competing with Jay Robinson, but the fact of the matter was he won more championships than Jay Robinson. But
Jay Robinson only won 1, was it, or 2?
I feel like it was 2 or 3.
Yeah, I think it was 2.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is that he had the right set of circumstances in order to win those championships, and unfortunately, there's just bigger fish in the pond. It's like I said, Cael is a very brilliant coach who was able to transfer that from being a very brilliant wrestler, and he's now training very brilliant wrestlers. John Smith he's not like this hard work guy like Brands. He's more of a technical guy, but when you've got a more technical wrestler teaching more technical guys as a coach, it's just, I mean, John Smith was a better international wrestler than Cael. There's no denying that, but he's not in freestyle. This is folk style. He only won like 2 national championships or something like that.
Championships.
So,
NCAA, yes.
If Silva saw me saying this, he probably smacked me in real life, which I don't blame him. But it's like one of those things where it's like it's the truth. You just got to. It's like we got to be honest in situations like that. He's just not the coach that Cael is.
If you're yeah, I could almost say that Smith may not have done adjustments that needed to be made. So he's been going with the same formula, and you've got these other coaches that have their formulas, and those formulas have been able to combine to be able to beat the way that he does. His wrestlers can beat their wrestlers, can beat his wrestlers based on the formula that he has. And if you're not adjusting how you're doing things, or if you have become complacent and you're not working on the basics and the fundamentals, like a stand-up, then you're going to have the lackluster success that you're seeing. And for us to have to say that about Oklahoma State, that hurts us to have to say that, just seeing how, they've performed within the last, 15 years or so.
Yeah, and these are not things that we choose to do lightly, because again, I was an Oklahoma State fan during their run, because that was during the latter part of my high school and the early part of my college career. It's like I wanted to see them succeed, and you've got that connection because you're being coached. You were coached by a Okie State alumni, and and you're still associated with an Okie State alumni, who I have a huge amount of respect for too. And when it came to wrestling camps, when it came to the best camp that I could possibly go to my senior year, in order to ensure that I could be the best high school wrestler I could be, I chose to go to the Okie State camp. So it's not something that we like. It's like, it's one of those things where we don't want to. It's like we hate doing this.
Yeah,
because we're fans of that program.
We're not clout chasers.
Yeah, we're fans of that program. We don't want to see. It's like we would love to see John Smith get another however many NCAA championships before he retires. But yeah, it's like you said. There's a certain formula in how to do things, and John Smith, he just either couldn't adjust or chose not to adjust. I would like to say it was the former. I'm gonna say it's the former just because I don't want to think that he just got lazy, because John Smith just doesn't seem like the type of guy who would get lazy. And we'll just leave it at that. But the fact that he just wasn't able to hang with the new types of coaches that came. And, that just goes back to something else. I think every mentor wants to see their pupil succeed. If they don't want to see their pupil do better than them, there's a problem. Like, Bobby Douglas has to be so proud of Kale. It's like, oh my gosh, you're doing so much better than I ever did as a coach. I am so proud of you. Like, it's like you're doing so much better as a wrestler, and you're doing so much better as a coach. I'm so proud that I am part of the coaching learning tree that led this man to on the road to possibly be the best coach in college wrestling at this rate. So it's if you don't want to see your guys succeed and do better than you in some way, and John Smith has had better wrestlers. He was only a 2-time NCAA champion, and he's had 3-time NCAA champions, multiple. So.
And he coached his brother.
Yeah, and he coached. Oh yeah, he coached his brother. He coached a 4-time NCAA champion, the first.
Yeah.
So it's. You want to see your pupils do better than you, and it's like that's happened, but it's just one of those things where it's like all of a sudden
throw back to Kale.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, that we had one person comment on one of our videos that, hey, yeah, Kale works very hard. He's not doing it for the team, he's doing it for his guys, and his guys are able to reciprocate that to the point that they're going out and succeeding, and enough of them are going out and succeeding and contributing to the team that they're taking these national championships.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like you never know how someone's gonna do, because Pat Smith. I mean, what did Pat Smith do after he wrestled?
He does he does club wrestling for kids and all that right
Yeah,
now.
well, he decided to contribute at another level and stuff like that. So maybe that's just where his passion is. But
Yeah, I think he was an assistant for John Smith for a bit,
yeah, I
but
think he
yeah,
was too. But yeah, he just decided to go other routes. But the it's like it's like the way that things were going initially when Cale Sanderson was going the coaching route that he was. We were just like, I don't know if he's gonna succeed. And then he goes to Penn State and everything blows up. It's just like, oh my gosh. So, but again, that just goes back to the formula. Cale was willing to go elsewhere to get a formula in order to make things work for him, and it succeed. It leaps and bounds it succeeded. Whereas, John Smith, obviously where he was successful, but maybe there could have been other things that he could have adjusted in making the formula, and he just wasn't able to make those adjustments.
okay. Well, I think a couple more things I want to cover. So, the Willits brothers from Oregon State, even though they do have 1 year of eligibility left, they have decided that they are moving on. They are going to graduate and move on to bigger and better things. Now, they both placed All-American at the tournament, and they helped project. They helped get Oregon State to a 12th place finish, which is one of the best finishes in that program's history. So they both decided not to come back. So best of luck to them. Really helping out a Pac-12 school. And then the big one, Matthew, is this guy wants to play mind games with the wrestling community, but Gable Steveson is mulling a possible comeback. Next season, coming back with the Minnesota Golden Gophers. But I think
wait, Minnesota, as in he's going to come back in wrestling, in college wrestling.
College wrestling. So I just have to say though, hey, messing with tradition and stuff like that. You left your shoes on the mat, and but hey, I'm not the guy who's gone out and won 2 national championships and an Olympic gold medal. So, if you want to come back and stuff, that's fine. I mean, what was it? Technically, I think we had talked about before, Rulon did try to come back, right? After he had left his shoes on.
Stephen Abbas tried to make a comeback too.
And and then I don't ever know if Cale ever left his shoes on the mat, did he?
I don't think so, which is why his comeback wasn't as controversial.
Yeah. So,
his attempted comeback.
I mean, it'd be interesting because then if he does come out, I mean, that's bad news for Colton Schultz. Especially if Gable continues to be dominant. But if he goes out and does that, then, he joins that list of, if he actually accomplishes it, then he'd join that group of 3-time national champions. So we will see. But anyway, Matthew, I think that's going to wrap up our episode for today. And so where can our viewers find us on?
Well, let's see. For the video podcast, we're on YouTube and Rumble. Obviously, live broadcast. We broadcast on Facebook every Monday, or every Sunday, or in this case, Monday. Our audio podcast is on Acast, Apple, Spotify, and Google. I know I keep saying more platforms to be added. We have all the major ones, but it is something that I will be working on.
So, and then Matthew also writes for an MMA publication website. It's called MMA Freak, and the address for that is mma-freak.com. And you can also follow MMA Freak on Twitter, which is MMA Freakout, if I remember correctly. You can also follow Matthew himself at Matthew Salzer on Twitter. And you can find, if you want to follow us personally, we are on Facebook, obviously. We also are on IG. And then I'm planning on also making some commentary videos about Japanese wrestling, since both of us have experience in that.
And
And even making
sumo.
some Japanese language episodes if you're interested. And yes, I also follow sumo a lot. I am active in the sumo fan community, and I will be planning on making some videos about the recently concluded May tournament in Japan, and hoping to make a Twitter so that you can follow sumo related news soon. So again, Matthew, thank you as always for your insightful commentary, and thank you to all our viewers who watch us and such. And we're hoping that we can bring you more content. We know that sometimes these things get a little long because we just enjoy talking about wrestling and stuff. And hoping again, this is what we want to do. This is our way of trying to get back to the community, and hopefully we're gonna both get back in the shape that we can make our own comebacks and have our more match experiences to share. So anyway, thank you all for your time, and hope you have a great week and a happy Memorial Day to you all. Until next time, take care.